Everyone. Thanks for joining. Just quick introduction, Zaki, part of Microsoft Teams Engineering. Me and my team, we are responsible for driving platform growth with our customers. What that really means is we work with our strategic customers to see how they can use Microsoft Teams beyond calling, meeting, and chat. So how can they integrate Microsoft Teams as part of their business workflows and digital workflows, digital habits. So that's a quick introduction. What we're going to do today, before I jump into my next slide, is I'm going to quickly talk about a scenario, a business process. Typically, this one is related to manufacturing industry, or you could say production, factory setup, and how using Teams without writing any code, using elements within Office 365, and using Azure Logic App, how someone could go ahead and automate that entire process. And then we look at what that means from an end user perspective, what that looks from developer perspective, which is in this case I would call citizen developer, because you don't need to know how coding. You could just go in and do some configuration setup, and you should be good to go. So quickly, if you really look at from industry perspective, right, a lot of the tasks, whether you're an informational worker or whether you're a first-line worker, most of the time employees are spending time on, like 61% of the time is on routine tasks. And these are tasks that are like paper-based processes, or they are something like search and share, which is so mundane. And that's where they lose, productivity hours. And that matters to businesses, because businesses want employees to be doing incremental or radical innovation work rather than doing mundane routine work. And if that can be automated, and if I can get my workforce time back to do something more meaningful, that's an impact for me. That's digital transformation for me. So quickly, context switching in that sense becomes important, because when you're running a process, you would have a paper here, you would have a form on the web page, you would have probably another tool there, and you're trying to just execute, take one action, you're going to different tools to accomplish that action, right? So that becomes really hard for people, and they get frustrated in that process. They start, when that frustration builds up, they're like, dude, this role is like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to do this data entry stuff here and there, and it's like killing me. That's what we keep hearing again and again, whether it is a worker on the factory floor or it's a consultant in a high-touch customer environment. You will see always that coming up again and again. So our answer to that is Microsoft Teams as a platform. What I really mean by that is we have a set of APIs and SDKs that we have built, and we have provided to our partners and customers. Partners like ISVs in this case could be internal and external. So if you are using Planner in Teams, they are a partner internally for us. If you are using Smartsheet in Teams, then they are external partner to us, right? Them to co-innovate with us. Underneath, what we have done is with the whole Power Platform itself, like if you're a partner, you could build first-class experiences by writing code, and you could do all these you could leverage the native capabilities that Teams platform offer. But if you're a citizen developer and you're like, I need to take my paper-based process and turn it into something which is automated, I could go build a data entry form using a Power App. I could build the logic using Power Automate or Azure Logic App. It could be either ways. And then you could build your analytics. Okay, how many people are filing requests and how many people are closing requests? Those things could be taken care by Power BI. So literally, you're able to do data entry, data processing, and insights management using a low-code, no-code platform, which is Power Apps. Underneath, those things can be powered by data that is sitting under Azure, that can be sitting under Office 365, that could be sitting under your own cloud or your own business application, line of business systems. That's when we say that's our complete Teams as a platform story. That ties up the people, conversation, services, data together. So collaboration just doesn't mean that people-to-people collaboration. Collaboration could also mean people-to-machine, machine-to-machine. So there are various modes that you can operate and use Teams for. quickly, not necessary you have to, like you might be using some of these applications inside your organization already, and we have about hundreds of applications, over 350 plus applications that our partners have built, ISVs, Smartsheets of the world, Atlassians of the world, and they have enabled these experiences. So you might even not need to set up. If you're coming from DevOps environment and you're using Azure DevOps, those logics and those experiences are pre-built into Teams. We're not going to do a double click there. Let's quickly look at what is the scenario that we are going to be automating in next 5-10 minutes. And I'm going to show you, I've already set it up. I'm just going to show you the parts of it and how it works. I have a line operator. Imagine there is this huge soda company. And the soda company does nothing but creates the juice, bottles it, and packages it and ships it out. So there are different production lines. Line number 1, maybe there is orange flavor soda. On the line number 2, there is probably strawberry flavor soda. So every time, so a production line is a series of steps. Bottle needs to get filled, bottle needs to get capped, bottle needs to get labeled with the right label, which is orange in this case. And anytime, it's a very sequential process, right? Any machine breaks down, it's a loss of dollar for that company, because the moment that machine stops, they have to go figure out, someone has to come and fix it. And the way today the processes are someone would call someone or someone would try reaching on walkie-talkies. And one of the things we have been saying with one of our customers is, okay, how do we use Teams in that context? So all the line operators, in this case, have teams, and there are line managers as well who will look at the entire production. And there is a maintenance team. So every time there's a breakdown, the maintenance team needs to come in, and they need to fix it. So the entire process, like engineer gets assigned a task, they come in, fix it. Line operator has to confirm whether the fix worked or not the engineer. Engineer can say, I did the work, but did the machine start off? No. So the line operator has to confirm, and then the process is a closed loop. It continues. This is a routine task. So the way the end user experience for this looks like, and before we go there, the architecture is what we're using, the components that we're using in the demo today and which we have used to set up and automate this process. I have Azure Logic App, which is used for automation. If you're building on Power Automate as a citizen developer, and if you happen to have Azure subscription as well, Azure Logic Apps provide a much more flexibility in terms of what all you can do. So consider this. It's like in Power Automate, you're going to get a set of features and connectors. The same connectors are there in Azure Logic App as well, and much more. And you can tie it across different Azure functions and Azure ecosystem itself. So it's much more powerful. It's a little more up the level than what you can do in Power Automate. We're using Microsoft Graph. I'll talk about channel indicators in a while to manage the channels in Microsoft Teams. The line operator has nothing but a SharePoint list. They go file, hey, there's an issue over here. This is the type of issue. And it will just dispatch. So we're using SharePoint list over there. And the engineers, the maintenance engineers, are using Planner. So every time someone files a maintenance request in SharePoint list, in the Planner, because it's a task management tool, a task gets created. The maintenance manager can say, hey, I need to assign this task to this person, and so forth. They get all the details. And everything is synchronized. The data stays within Office 365 and Azure. You're not using anything outside. You don't need to maintain any data sources. You don't need to maintain any logic anymore. Once you put this up, it's all in one synchronous and cohesive process. Quickly, what does the end user experience looks like? So I'm quickly going to share. Just want to make sure if you can see my screen. So let me just end my presentation mode. So what I have here is two teams. This is the production team, and what the production team has done is for each production line, orange flavor, strawberry flavor, banana flavor, they have created production lines over here, channels. And the color indicator that you see across them is blue means everything is working fine. Whenever red shows up means something is broken in that production line. Why did they do that? Why do we have channel indicators over there is, without even getting into the team and knowing what's happening in a channel, I can right away look at it and say which production line is broken, where attention is needed, right? That's something they wanted to do right away. I don't even need to go into the channel to know what the details are. I know this is broken. That's my top priority to go fix it. If I'm a line manager, if I'm a revenue manager on that line, I need to be on top of it. So that's what these color indicators mean. We're going to go. So what I've done is I've taken the SharePoint list that is used for managing request. So I noticed in production line 1, I have a failure. All I'm doing as a line operator is going ahead and I'm saying, DS 234.6 unit is broken due to power spike, right? And I'm going to say, hey, this severity is high, and I'm just going to go ahead and save it. Keeping fingers crossed, what we should see in a while is my Azure Logic function that that's kind of automating this entire thing behind the scenes is working. It's picked up, and it said, hey, someone reported an issue in this channel, and the channel indicator, the channel name got updated with the right indicator now. Now, whoever is looking in the team, whoever is like in the teams and they're managing, looking at these channels, they know that production line is out halt. That's a revenue hit for us. Now, if I go into the maintenance team, so all the maintenance engineers are in the second team, and they only have one channel. For simplicity's sake, what we're doing here. And if I go into my channel, and I have all the maintenance requests coming in as tab, and if I see there I have a task already created over here. It says, hey, it's a high severity. Whoever created the email alias over there, and what's the issue? Now I can go ahead and assign this to maybe Megan, and say, Megan, you need to look into it. In this case, let me assign it to myself as well first. And that's it. I've assigned an engineer, and if you're like Megan and myself will get a notification, and I have planners. So if I'm a maintenance engineer, I have my planner pinned on my side. I can look at all the tasks that are assigned to me on different production lines. That's the benefit. Now, I don't have, as a maintenance engineer, I don't need to go anywhere else. It's my personal view. I can look at all the tasks assigned to me. So that's the planner personal view. And what you would see is that the bot will start showing up like recurring updates on that task and stuff, which is not happening right now because it's not picked it up yet. But if I go, let's say Megan goes ahead, fix the production line 1 issue, and whoever filed it says, yeah, this is resolved now. So I'll go ahead, go into maintenance request. This was the issue that we reported. And I will say, hey, this seems to be resolved. And for some reason, my scroll doesn't seem to be picking it up. Oh, I need to actually edit it. So let me select this one, edit, and mark it resolved, and save it. Now what it would do is, it would change my color back to blue. The status indicator is set to blue. And if I go back to the maintenance engineer's planner, in there, the task that was created has been marked as completed. So pretty much, it's very simple. 2 different teams coordinating on a single entity, which is a broken, or let's say an issue on the production line, and they were able to come across without any paper, without any walkie-talkies, or without any physical hardware comms, they were able to resolve this process. How has this been set up? We have 5 more minutes. I'll quickly show you. So what I've done behind the scene is I have created an Azure Logic app. I have 2 functions. One is a create handler, and one is a update handler. So every time someone creates a new request in the SharePoint list, I need to go trigger a process. Anyone goes ahead and update the status to resolved, I need to go do another set of actions. And you can get smart about this. You can pretty much build the entire thing into one job. But for simplicity's sake, we're using 2 different views. So if I open this, what it's doing is it's picking up the SharePoint list items. This is the trigger. What triggers the job? to initiate that logic. In this case, anytime a SharePoint list is, an item is created, this whole logic should get triggered. That is what the case over here is. And I'm checking for every 3 seconds. You can put any amount of interval that you want. And then I'm doing a bunch of logics on it. I'm looking at which production line is this coming from. And basis that production line, I'm saying, go ahead, let me just expand this. Bunch of things. I'm using Graph, Microsoft Graph over here. Remember, we talked about Microsoft Graph to managing the channel name. That's what we're doing over here. I'm providing the channel ID, channel name, and I'm saying update the display name of the channel. That is all I'm doing over here. And then I'm using OAuth. And then I'm going ahead and creating a task. This is the task in the planner for the maintenance engineering team. And I'm doing one more thing at the end. I'm capturing the task ID that I created in the planner so that when someone marks an item resolved, I can go and close the planner work item, right? So that's what I'm doing over here. I'm updating an item, which is nothing but the SharePoint list item with the task ID. So pretty much, you're not writing any code except for like going ahead and setting up your graph application, which is 2 minutes process, less than 2 minutes in Azure. It is very well documented. Everything else is just drag and drop and configuring it basis what you have access to and what your team have access to. On the update side, if we go back and if you open the update handler, all I'm doing over here is opening this quickly. Whenever an item gets updated, I'm checking for one condition. What I'm checking is when the item gets updated, is someone marking it as resolved or not? If they're marking it resolved, I'll continue the logic. If they're not marking it resolved or they're updating any other field, I'm not interested in that logic. So if they're marking it as resolved, it is true. I'll just go ahead, do the same logic as we did. Update the channel name, but now I'm changing the color code and update the task, which is basically mark it completed. I'm using the same task ID that I stored back in the SharePoint list when I was creating it. Now I'm just updating it back. That's pretty much in two logic apps, you can build the entire logic of that process that we talked about. You can do a lot more complex stuff. Some of the folks have went ahead and said, okay, I need to send a card to the maintenance engineer whenever they get assigned a task. I need to send a card to person whenever they get resolved. I need to report severity high issues to some other team. You could build all those logics. It's just first mapping out the process on the paper or Visio in this case, and then you can bring that into Azure Logic Apps and automate it. That's pretty much on the demo side. Quickly, I have 3 minutes, and I'll try to go through. So Azure Logic Apps for you is serverless technology, which means you're not getting into the business of writing code, managing where the code runs and where the code gets built and keeping a tap on it. It's basically connecting everything together. Now, you can bring data from different sources on the cloud. You can bring data from your on-premises, which is sitting on your DBs and stuff. You can bring data from Azure infrastructure itself. Let's say I want to capture all these and process like how many times which unit is getting broken. I can do those analysis using Azure ML and use Power BI to report it back. That's what pretty much Azure Logic App provides you as a kind of a boxed logic that you can build upon. Quickly, the advantages that you get about is you're reducing your DevOps. There's no code management here, no infrastructure machine instance management. You're getting to market much faster. Literally, that entire process was built this morning. I'm not even kidding, in less than 15 minutes. The only trick over there was I had the Graph AD set up and I had the channel ID. You might spend another 15 minutes just getting your channel IDs, but in less than 30 minutes, you can wrap it up, the entire thing. And micro-billing, in this case, you're not getting into the business of, okay, I need a user license for person who creates the logic and person who uses, absolutely not. It's based on consumption. Every time your instance run, whenever you run the logic, you're going to be getting cost incurred, and it's like pennies. For this logic, it's going to be like pennies. It's in cents. It's only when the volume increases, you're going to see a significant billing, but otherwise, it's going to run very simple. We run complex processes, and we pay only like $20 in our context. So it depends on what you're trying to solve. As we looked at it, right, we saw the UI, but it has three things, if you really ask me. There is a trigger. What triggers the logic? This could be time-bound. It could be time-bound. It could be based on certain, entity creation or update logic, or it could be based on, something that's in your event bus coming and triggering it. So it could be asynchronous logics. And the second part was when the trigger happened, what action needs to happen? Now, actions can be multi-layer. You can have as many actions, and you can do sequential and parallel actions in one go. You can set them up, and there are a bunch of actions in there. You can invoke services. You can manage the messages that you're parsing, the control behavior itself. And there is, of course, the flow control, like conditional logic versus switching logic. Whatever you would do in code now has been abstracted into a GUID format. The last piece is expression. Now, in this, we didn't do much of expression because we were not parsing the JSON that comes in. But if you were to do complex parsing, you're getting a whole lot of data, and you just need to build some logic out. There are nested arrays in it, and you need to break the array and get to the finer entities. That's what you can do with expressions right in there. The last piece is Microsoft Graph is what we used. Microsoft Graph is just single endpoint that you can connect to Windows, Office 365, and entities and EMS as one single piece. So you don't need to have multiple endpoints for different services and different products. It's a single endpoint, but the subdomains the sub-entities keep changing on which you're operating. That's pretty much from my end. Thank you. Thank you for joining us here, and I hope this was helpful.